My wife cheated on me with her boss, stole $250, $0 from our joint account, and now she's claiming I'm the one trying to steal the house in our bitter divorce battle. I never saw any of this coming. I never saw it coming. Honestly, I thought I knew my wife, Emily, pretty well. We'd been together for over 10 years, married for 6, and I always believed we had a solid life. She was the kind of woman who seemed to have it all together, beautiful, smart, assertive, and she always knew how to charm her way out of any situation. But somewhere along the line, I started noticing little things that didn't add up. She'd be secretive about her phone, brushing off my questions with a sharp attitude, telling me I was paranoid or overly jealous. She'd stay late at work more often, claiming it was just a new project. At first, I told myself it was work stress, but deep down, I felt something was off. The first real sign was the sudden, unexplained increase in our joint bank account balance. We had a modest but comfortable life, and I knew exactly what our finances looked like. Then, out of nowhere, there was a transfer, $250, zero gone, just vanished. I remember staring at the bank statement, thinking I'd made a mistake. But no, the money was gone, transferred to an account I didn't recognize. I called the bank, but they told me it was a legitimate transfer authorized by Emily. That's when the red flags went up. I decided to do some digging. I started paying closer attention to Emily's behavior. She became more defensive, more dismissive. She started working late even more, claiming she had to finish a big project. But I could tell she was hiding something. One night I decided to check her phone while she was in the shower. I didn't expect much, just a quick peek to see if she was texting anyone she shouldn't be. What I found was a string of messages with her boss, Mark. They were flirty, suggestive at times, and clearly more than just professional. They talked about meeting up, about sex, about secret plans. I felt a punch in my gut. I had always trusted Emily, but here it was, laid bare. That was the moment I knew for sure. I confronted her the next morning. I showed her the messages, the bank transfer, the evidence I had gathered. Her face twisted into a sneer, and she rolled her eyes like I was some kind of paranoid lunatic. "You're crazy," she snapped. "You're just jealous because I work hard and you don't understand. Mark's just a friend, and the money, it's a misunderstanding. You're always accusing me of stuff I haven't done." She lied, flat out lied, like it was nothing. She said I was imagining things, that I was insecure, that she never cheated. But I knew better. I saw her, the way she looked at Mark's messages, the way she dodged my questions. It was all there. The emotional shock hit me like a freight train. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and furious. How could she do this? How could she betray our marriage, steal our money, and then have the nerve to lie straight to my face? I felt this deep, aching sadness, but also a burning anger that refused to go away. I started questioning everything: our life, our vows, the years I spent trusting her. I was torn between wanting to confront her again and just walking away. But I knew one thing: I couldn't just let this slide, not without a fight, not without some kind of reckoning. In that moment, I realized I had a choice. I could stay silent, accept her lies, and let her walk all over me. Or I could stand up, fight for what was rightfully mine, and make her face the consequences. I chose the latter. I decided I'd gather all the evidence, confront her publicly if I had to, and take back control of my life. The betrayal was huge, but I was determined not to let her win. Not this time. I knew that whatever came next, I'd have to be prepared for everything, because Emily was a master manipulator and I wasn't about to be her next victim. After that initial confrontation, I felt like I was walking around in a fog. Everything was spinning: the betrayal, the money stolen, her outright lies. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. My trust was shattered, and every time I looked at her, I saw a stranger. Emily was still acting like everything was normal, like I was overreacting. She'd throw her head back, laugh at my concerns, call me paranoid. But I knew better. I saw the messages, the bank records, the way she was always sneaking around. It was all too obvious now. Still, I had to be careful. I didn't want to tip her off that I was onto her, not yet. One night, I decided to follow her. I needed to see where she was going after her late nights at work. I parked outside the office building around 8 p.m., pretending to be just a concerned husband. That's when I saw her walk out with Mark, her boss. They looked like they'd been having a secret affair. She was laughing, touching his arm, leaning into him like they were more than just colleagues. I felt my stomach tighten. They headed to a nearby hotel and I watched from my car as they went inside. The image burned into my mind. I saw her kissing him, whispering, and then disappearing behind the door. That was the proof I needed. I didn't storm in that night. Instead, I went home, my mind racing. I knew I had to be strategic. I had to gather more evidence, find out how deep this really went. The next day, I hired a private investigator. I didn't tell Emily, I just wanted to see what he could find. Over the next few days, I got reports that confirmed what I'd already suspected. Emily and Mark had been hooking up for months. They were sneaking around, exchanging intimate texts, even taking trips together while I was clueless. The PI also uncovered bank transfers, more money transferred to accounts under Mark's control, all linked to Emily. The picture was clear. She was cheating, stealing, and lying. Meanwhile, Emily kept up her act, playing the innocent victim. She told friends I was crazy, that I was just jealous, that I was making things up. She spun stories about how demanding I'd become and how I was projecting my insecurities. But I wasn't buying it anymore. I knew her game. I could see through her lies. Every time she accused me of trying to steal her, I just wanted to scream. She was the one stealing our money, my trust, my marriage. The betrayal cut deep, but I was starting to feel a strange sense of clarity. I had to plan my next move carefully. I started documenting everything, screenshots of her messages, bank statements, photographs from the PI. I wanted hard evidence, the kind that couldn't be dismissed or spun into some kind of innocent misunderstanding. I was furious, yes, but I also knew I had to keep my cool. I couldn't let her see how much she'd broken me. I had to be smart. I began thinking about lawyers, about what I could do to protect myself legally, especially concerning the house and the money. I knew she'd try to spin this into some kind of victim story, but I wasn't about to let her manipulate the truth. That's when I realized the full scope of her deception. She'd been living a double life, maintaining her perfect image at home while sneaking around with her boss, stealing from us and lying every step of the way. I felt betrayed on every level, emotionally, financially, morally. But I also knew I had to stand my ground. I wasn't going to let her walk away with everything. Our home, our savings, the respect we once had. I decided I'd confront her again, but this time armed with proof, prepared for the fight. I didn't know what the future held, but I knew I couldn't let her get away with this. Not without a serious battle. The more I dug, the clearer it became that Emily was a master at keeping secrets. She had her lies perfectly rehearsed, and she was good at convincing everyone she was the victim, the wronged wife who was just trying to hold everything together. But I wasn't buying it anymore. I had seen her in her true colors, and I was starting to realize that the woman I'd loved and trusted for years was nothing but a facade. The betrayal cut deep, but it also fueled my resolve. I knew I couldn't just sit back and let her spin her web of lies. I had to act fast and smart. I sat down one night and made a list of everything I had uncovered. The messages with Mark, the bank transfers, the trips, the secret meetings, every detail. I included the evidence I had collected through the PI. I knew I needed a lawyer, someone who could help me navigate the mess we were about to become. But I also wanted to confront Emily face to face before taking any official legal steps. I had to see her reaction, gauge her state of mind, and decide my next move. The confrontation was set for the following evening. I told her I had something important to discuss, nothing about the evidence, just a serious talk. When she walked into the living room, she was wearing her usual smug expression, like she had everything under control. I looked her straight in the eyes and laid it all out. Every piece of evidence, every lie she'd told, every stolen dollar. I told her I knew about her affair with Mark, about the money she'd siphoned from our account, about her sneaking around behind my back. Her reaction was instant. She scoffed, rolled her eyes, and then started lying again, trying to deny everything. "You're overreacting," she snapped. "This is all a misunderstanding. Mark isn't like that. You're just jealous because I've been working so hard and you're insecure. You're imagining things, you're crazy." Her voice was sharp, sarcastic, like she was mocking me. She insisted she loved me, that she was only doing what she needed to do to survive, to succeed, like that somehow justified everything. She even said that the money was a loan, that she was going to pay it back. I couldn't believe how she was spinning it, like I was the one at fault, like I was the one trying to steal our house. I felt a mixture of anger and sadness. How could she be so indifferent to everything? How could she lie so effortlessly? I wanted to scream, to shake her, to make her see how much she destroyed us, but I kept my cool. I told her I had evidence and I was going to see this through. I told her that her lies wouldn't save her, that I was done being manipulated. I said I'd be filing for divorce, and she could try to spin her stories to everyone else, but I knew the truth. I told her I was done playing her game. That night I went to bed feeling numb. The shock was wearing off, replaced by a cold, hard resolve. I knew I had to prepare for what was coming. Legal battles, accusations, the fight over the house, the money, everything. I wasn't naive enough to think she'd just walk away quietly. Emily was a fighter, and she'd do everything to twist the story in her favor. But I also knew I had the truth on my side. I had the evidence, and I was ready to fight for what was rightfully mine. In the days that followed, I contacted a lawyer specializing in divorce and financial disputes. We started gathering more paperwork, preparing for the worst. I knew she'd try to claim I was the one trying to steal the house, that I was the one messing with her, but I had all the proof I needed. I also began documenting her behavior, her sneaking around, her lies, her attempts to manipulate friends and family. I realized that the betrayal wasn't just about the affair or the stolen money. It was about her complete disregard for our marriage, for the vows we took, for the life we built together. Every step I took felt like a small victory, but it also brought a lot of pain. I couldn't help but wonder how I'd let it get this far, how I missed the signs, how I trusted her for so long. But there was no turning back now. I had to see this through, no matter how ugly it got. I knew the road ahead would be rough, but I was determined to reclaim my life, my dignity. And as I looked at the mountain of evidence I'd compiled, I realized that this was just the beginning. The real fight was about to start. The legal process moved faster than I expected once I handed everything over to my lawyer. Emily, of course, started spinning her own stories. She told friends I was abusive, controlling, and that I was trying to take everything from her, our house, her job, her reputation. She painted herself as the victim, the woman who had given everything, and now I was the one trying to ruin her. It was classic Emily: blame everyone else, twist facts, and manipulate the narrative. But I had the evidence, and I knew that the truth was on my side. In the meantime, I kept a close eye on her behavior. She was getting more desperate, I could tell. She started acting even more bitchy, snapping at me over small things, trying to turn the kids against me. She'd call me paranoid if I questioned her whereabouts, accuse me of trying to control her. But I wasn't backing down. I stayed calm, collected, and focused on getting everything documented. I also started secretly recording our conversations, just in case I needed proof of her lies during the divorce proceedings. One day, she tried to gaslight me in front of the kids. She told them I was the one who'd been unfaithful, that I'd stolen money from her, that I was trying to ruin her reputation. Watching her manipulate our children like that made my stomach turn. I knew I had to be careful, not to escalate things further, but I also knew I couldn't let her keep doing this. I sat them down later and explained, in age-appropriate terms, that sometimes adults make mistakes and that I love them no matter what. It was painful to see her twisting reality, but I had to protect my kids from her lies. Meanwhile, the divorce papers were filed. The process was ugly, but I stayed firm. I demanded the house, the money, and full custody of the kids. Emily fought hard. She brought up all sorts of false accusations, claiming I was trying to steal her future, that I was manipulative and controlling. She even accused me of financial abuse, which was laughable given her own theft. I had bank records, messages, witnesses, proof that she was the one who'd betrayed us, not me. But Emily had her ways of twisting the truth. She hired her own lawyer, and suddenly it was a messy, bitter battle over everything. What struck me most was her relentless denial. She kept insisting she loved me, that she was only trying to make a better life for herself, even while she was sneaking around and stealing from us. She played the victim so convincingly that some of our friends started to doubt me. That's when I realized how good she was at manipulation. But I also knew I couldn't let her win. I stayed focused, sticking to the facts and prepared for the fight of my life. One evening, she threw a tantrum during one of the custody hearings. She yelled at me in front of everyone, calling me an unfit father, claiming I was trying to ruin her reputation. Her voice was shrill, her face contorted with anger. The judge looked unimpressed. I kept my composure, but inside I was boiling. I knew she was trying to sway the court to paint me as the villain. But I had the evidence, texts, bank records, witness testimony. I knew the truth. I just had to keep fighting, keep showing up, and stay strong. Throughout all this, I couldn't help but feel a strange mix of anger and relief. Anger because she'd betrayed everything we built, and relief because I finally had clarity. I saw her for who she really was, selfish, manipulative, and unfaithful. The pain was still there, but I was starting to accept that I couldn't fix this. I couldn't save what was lost, but I could protect what mattered most, my kids and myself. I learned that sometimes the only way to deal with a betrayal this deep is to face it head on, no matter how messy or painful it gets. I'd fought for her for our marriage for years, but now I understood that some betrayals are too big to forgive, and some people are just not worth the effort. The courtroom battles dragged on for months, each hearing more exhausting than the last. Emily's lies grew more elaborate, more desperate. She claimed I was trying to destroy her just because I wanted what was fair: our house, the money she stole, and custody of the kids. She sat there with her bitchy smirk, insisting she was the real victim, that I was the one who'd betrayed her. I could see through her act now. Her eyes were cold, calculated, like she was playing a long game. Every time she opened her mouth, I knew she was trying to spin her lies, but I had the evidence to counter her every claim. What really pushed me over the edge was her attempt to claim the house was joint property, that I was trying to steal. She argued that I was the one manipulating the situation, that I was the greedy one trying to take everything she deserved. The lawyer I hired was relentless, presenting the bank records, the messages, and the witness statements that proved she'd been siphoning money and cheating on me. I remember sitting in the courtroom, watching her try to make herself look innocent while the truth was staring her in the face. I felt a strange mix of rage and satisfaction, rage at her betrayal, and satisfaction that I was finally exposing her lies. Meanwhile, she kept up her act of being the victim, claiming I was trying to ruin her life because I was jealous or insecure. She'd cry, throw tantrums, and even try to turn the kids against me. But I stayed the course. I knew I had to be the calm, rational parent, even as she was losing control. I kept recording her outbursts, saving every false statement she made about me. I also kept reminding myself that her lies didn't matter. What mattered was the hard evidence I had collected. The biggest blow came when the judge finally ruled on the house and custody. The court awarded me full custody of the kids and granted me the house, citing the evidence of her infidelity and financial misconduct. Emily's face twisted in fury when she heard the decision. She yelled, tried to argue, but her lawyer was visibly frustrated. It was a victory, but not a clean one. Emily refused to accept it. She accused me of rigging the system, of trying to steal her future, and vowed to keep fighting. She even threatened to appeal, to drag everything out even longer. What struck me most during the final hearing was how she still insisted she loved me and that all her actions were justified. She claimed she was just trying to build a better life, even though she'd stolen from us and betrayed everything we stood for. Watching her lie so convincingly made me realize how deep her manipulation ran, but I also saw through it. I knew her true nature now: selfish, manipulative, and unfaithful. I felt a strange sense of closure, knowing I'd fought for what was right. The legal battle was over, but the emotional scars remained. After everything, I finally started to rebuild my life. I moved out of the house, got a new place for myself and the kids, and began the slow process of healing. I learned a lot through this ordeal, about trust, about betrayal, and about the importance of protecting yourself. I realized that sometimes the people you love the most can hurt you the deepest, and that you have to be prepared to stand up for yourself, even when it feels like the world is against you. The betrayal changed me, but it also made me stronger. I've come to terms with the fact that some people are just not who they seem, and that the best thing you can do is pick yourself up and move forward. Now, I advise anyone who finds themselves in a similar situation, trust your instincts. Don't ignore the signs, no matter how small they seem. Collect evidence, stay calm, and never let your pain turn into revenge that blinds you. Sometimes the best revenge is simply walking away, knowing you did everything you could to protect yourself and your kids. Because in the end, honesty and integrity matter more than anything else. And as for Emily, she's left to deal with her own lies and consequences. I've learned that life is too short to waste on people who betray you, and that true strength lies in knowing when to fight and when to walk away. Now that everything's settled, well, mostly, I find myself reflecting more than ever. The house is gone, the money is accounted for, and I have full custody of the kids. It's not what I envisioned when I first got married, but it's what I have. I've learned a hard lesson about trust, about the people you think you know, and about the importance of protecting yourself before it's too late. Emily's betrayal didn't just cost me money or my marriage. It shattered my sense of security and forced me to confront a side of myself I never knew existed. Looking back, I realize I was blind for a long time. I ignored the little signs, the secretive texts, the late nights, the unexplained withdrawals. I told myself she was stressed, busy, tired, but the truth was staring me in the face all along. I was too caught up in our routines, too comfortable to see the cracks forming. That's a mistake I won't make again. Trust has to be earned, and it's never worth sacrificing your own peace of mind for a false sense of security. The emotional toll was brutal. There were nights I questioned everything, myself, my worth, whether I was enough. The anger, the heartbreak, the shame, all of it threatened to swallow me whole. But I also found strength I didn't know I had. I fought back, not just legally but emotionally. I sought therapy, leaned on friends who believed in me, and worked hard to rebuild my confidence. The kids are still adjusting, but I make sure they see a dad who's stronger now, someone who's learned to stand tall after being knocked down. If there's one thing I want others in similar situations to understand, it's this: never ignore your gut. If something feels off, investigate. Trust takes years to build, but it's fragile and can be broken in a second. Protect your finances, keep records, and don't be afraid to fight for what's yours. People like Emily will try to manipulate, lie, and turn everything upside down, so be prepared. Sometimes walking away is the bravest thing you can do, not because you're weak, but because you're wise enough to see that some betrayals are beyond forgiveness. Most importantly, I've learned that healing is a process. It takes time, patience, and a lot of self-love. I don't hold grudges anymore, but I do remember the lessons. I know now that I can survive even the worst betrayal, and I can come out the other side stronger. Life will throw curveballs, but I refuse to let betrayal define me. I've found a new sense of purpose, a renewed focus on my kids and myself. This experience has changed me forever. It's made me more cautious, more aware, but also more resilient. I've realized that sometimes the greatest act of self-respect is walking away from someone who doesn't deserve your trust. And in doing so, you open the door to a new beginning, one built on honesty, strength, and the knowledge that you're capable of surviving anything life throws your way. I hope anyone reading this who's going through something similar finds the courage to face their truth, protect what's theirs, and remember that after the storm, there's always a chance to rebuild, better, wiser, and stronger than before.